Last season, a Michigan farmer discovered that the purslane he'd been spraying with herbicides was commanding premium prices at the local farmer's market. Instead of eliminating his weed problem, he started harvesting it as a specialty crop. This represents a fundamental shift in agricultural thinking. Lamb's quarters contains 3 times the calcium and at least twice the other nutrients found in spinach, while purslane delivers one of the highest vegetable sources for heart-healthy omega-3 fatty acids, along with concentrated iron, vitamins B, C, and E, and beta-carotene. The transformation from farm nuisance to high-value crop candidate is reshaping how progressive farmers approach land management and diversified revenue streams. The disconnect between what farmers eliminate and what markets demand reveals a massive economic opportunity hiding in plain sight. Walk through any farmer's market and you'll notice something peculiar. Plants that most growers spend considerable resources trying to eliminate are being sold for premium prices just feet away from conventional produce. The same purslane that triggers herbicide applications in cornfields commands top dollar at specialty produce stands. This disconnect between agricultural practice and market demand creates a massive economic blind spot that costs farmers potential revenue streams while increasing their input costs. Traditional farming operations focus on maximizing yields of established commodity crops, viewing any competing vegetation as a threat to profitability that requires immediate elimination. The numbers reveal the scale of this economic paradox. Conventional farmers apply herbicides at considerable expense per acre to eliminate purslane, while specialty growers harvest the same plant and sell it at premium prices in urban markets. A single application of glyphosate-based herbicide can eliminate substantial potential specialty crop revenue from the same acreage. This economic contradiction extends beyond individual farm operations into broader market dynamics, where artificial scarcity drives premium pricing. The widespread classification of these plants as agricultural pests creates supply constraints that generate significant market opportunities for growers who recognize their commercial potential. University research programs demonstrate that edible weeds command premium prices specifically because conventional agriculture treats them as nuisances rather than crops. The systematic elimination of these species through herbicide programs has created an artificial shortage in markets where consumer demand continues to grow steadily. The supply constraint created by widespread herbicide use generates market opportunities that progressive farmers are beginning to exploit. When an entire industry dedicates resources to eliminating specific plant species, the few producers who cultivate these same plants face minimal competition and can command premium pricing based on limited availability. Urban restaurants and health-conscious consumers actively seek these nutrient-dense plants, creating consistent demand that significantly outpaces the limited supply available through conventional distribution channels. Professional chefs specifically request these ingredients because their intense flavors and unique textures cannot be replicated through conventional agricultural production methods. High-end culinary establishments build seasonal menus around the availability of foraged ingredients, with some restaurants employing dedicated staff members to source wild edibles from specialized suppliers. This professional demand creates year-round market opportunities for farmers who can provide consistent quantities of restaurant-quality wild greens. The financial transformation becomes clear when comparing revenue potential across different production approaches. Market analysis reveals substantial revenue increases possible when land is managed specifically for high-value wild edibles compared to conventional crop production approaches. These revenue calculations include the elimination of herbicide costs, reduced irrigation requirements, and minimal soil preparation expenses that characterize wild edible production. The plants thrive under conditions that would stress conventional crops, requiring fewer inputs while generating higher per-acre returns through premium market pricing. The economic model benefits from similar market dynamic where perceived scarcity, unique characteristic, and specialized knowledge requirements create pricing premiums that exceed conventional agricultural returns. Wild edibles occupy a specialized market niche where limited production meets growing consumer demand. Commercial buyers actively compete for reliable sources of these specialty crops, with some distributors maintaining waiting lists of restaurants seeking consistent weekly deliveries. The limited number of producers creates sellers' market conditions where farmers can negotiate favorable pricing terms and establish long-term supply contracts. The fundamental shift from pest management to crop diversification represents a complete reframing of land productivity and revenue potential. Instead of viewing diverse plant communities as problems requiring expensive solutions, this approach recognizes biological diversity as a source of multiple revenue streams that can be harvested selectively while maintaining ecosystem balance. This economic foundation explains why identifying specific high-value species becomes crucial for agricultural decision-making. Understanding which plants command premium prices, their optimal harvest timing, and their specific market requirements enables farmers to transform management costs into profit centers through strategic species selection and targeted cultivation practices. The transition requires developing new relationships with specialty buyers, understanding post-harvest handling requirements, and learning to recognize quality indicators that determine market pricing for wild edible crops. Among these opportunities, certain species stand out as particularly valuable targets for agricultural transformation. Purslane stands out as the most nutritionally dense and economically valuable plant in American agriculture. This succulent ground cover contains higher levels of omega-3 fatty acids than any other leafy green, positioning it as one of the highest vegetable sources for heart-healthy omega-3 fatty acids available to consumers seeking plant-based alternatives to marine sources. The thick, paddle-shaped leaves store concentrated nutrients that develop specifically under the stress conditions that make purslane a successful weed. These environmental pressures trigger biochemical processes that accumulate essential fatty acids, vitamins, and minerals at levels that cultivated greens rarely achieve through conventional agricultural production methods. Laboratory analysis reveals the extraordinary nutritional profile that drives market demand. Purslane delivers substantial concentrations of alpha-linolenic acid that significantly outrank common cultivated greens like spinach and kale. This omega-3 content offers vegetarian consumers access to essential nutrients typically associated with fish consumption. The biochemical composition extends beyond omega-3 content to include elevated levels of vitamins A, C, and E, along with significant concentrations of magnesium, potassium, and calcium. These nutrients develop through the plant's adaptive mechanisms that allow survival in harsh growing conditions where conventional crops would fail completely. High-end restaurants actively seek fresh purslane, specifically requesting the young shoots and tender leaves that appear in early summer. Professional chefs value the plant's unique combination of lemony tartness and succulent texture that cannot be replicated through conventional vegetable production. The culinary applications extend across multiple preparation methods. Raw purslane adds crunch and nutritional density to salads, while cooked applications preserve the omega-3 content while softening the texture for soups, stews, and sautéed preparations that showcase its distinctive flavor profile. Purslane's natural drought tolerance and rapid growth cycle allow for multiple harvests per season without irrigation or soil amendments. The plant thrives in sandy, poor soils that would require significant inputs to support conventional crop production. This resilience translates directly into reduced production costs while maintaining premium market positioning. The growth characteristics make purslane particularly valuable for diversified farming operations. Seeds germinate rapidly in warm soil, producing harvestable leaves within 4 to 6 weeks of emergence. Multiple cuttings from the same plants extend the harvest season while encouraging continued growth and leaf production. Specialty food distributors report consistent demand from Mediterranean and Middle Eastern restaurants, where purslane serves as a traditional ingredient in salads and cooked dishes. This established culinary heritage creates stable market demand beyond the novelty factor that drives some wild edible trend. The traditional uses span multiple cuisines and preparation styles. Greek fattoush incorporates fresh purslane leaves, while Turkish dishes feature the plant in both raw and cooked applications. Mexican cuisine utilizes purslane in traditional verdolaga preparations that highlight its nutritional and flavor contributions. Urban restaurants incorporate purslane into seasonal menus as both a primary ingredient and a nutritional enhancement for other dishes. The plant's omega-3 content allows chefs to market heart-healthy menu options while providing unique flavors that distinguish their offerings from competitors using conventional ingredients. Post-harvest handling requires specific techniques to maintain the quality standards that justify premium pricing. The succulent leaves lose moisture rapidly after harvest, requiring immediate cooling and proper packaging to preserve the crisp texture and concentrated flavors that professional buyers demand. Converting purslane from a herbicide target to harvest crop eliminates chemical input costs while providing multiple revenue cycles per growing season. This transformation requires recognizing optimal harvest timing when leaves reach peak nutritional density without developing the bitter compounds that reduce marketability. The economic model functions like a biological gold mine, where nutrients concentrate naturally through environmental stress responses, unlike conventional crops that require external inputs to achieve marketable quality. Purslane produces its highest value characteristics when growing under conditions that would damage other agricultural species. Understanding purslane's market position reveals why proper identification and timing become critical factors in maximizing both yield and quality. The distinction between optimal harvest windows and overmatured plants determines whether the crop commands premium pricing or becomes unmarketable to professional buyers who maintain strict quality specifications for their restaurant clientele. The transition from agricultural pest to specialty crop requires developing relationships with buyers who understand purslane's culinary applications and can move consistent quantities through established distribution channels. While purslane offers exceptional nutritional density and established market demand, other wild edibles present equally compelling opportunities for agricultural transformation. Professional chefs consistently rank lamb's quarters as superior to cultivated spinach in both flavor complexity and nutritional density, yet commercial availability remains virtually non-existent. The plant's distinctive earthy taste combines mineral notes with a subtle sweetness that develops through natural soil interactions, creating flavor profiles that commercial spinach cultivation cannot replicate through controlled growing environments. This tall, diamond-leafed plant grows prolifically in disturbed soil and agricultural edges, producing tender greens that command premium prices when available to food service buyers. The species colonizes areas where conventional crops struggle, transforming marginal agricultural land into productive growing space without requiring soil amendments, irrigation systems, or pest management protocols. The plant's morphology reveals its commercial potential through specific identifying characteristics that distinguish it from other agricultural weeds. The distinctive silvery white undersides and triangular leaves make identification straightforward, while the central stem structure supports continuous harvest operations throughout the growing season, without compromising plant vitality or regenerative capacity. Lamb's quarters demonstrates remarkable adaptability across diverse soil conditions, with plants reaching harvestable size within 6 to 8 weeks of germination. The rapid growth cycle provides continuous harvest opportunities as new terminal shoots develop following selective cutting of mature leaves, extending the productive season far beyond conventional leafy green crops. The biochemical composition drives the premium pricing structure that professional buyers willingly pay for consistent access to lamb's quarters. Nutritional analysis reveals the plant contains 3 times the calcium and at least twice the other nutrients found in spinach, creating superior nutritional profiles that cannot be achieved through conventional agricultural production methods. These elevated nutrient levels develop through the plant's natural adaptation mechanisms that concentrate minerals and vitamins in response to environmental stress conditions. The same factors that make lamb's quarters a successful agricultural weed also trigger the biochemical processes that create its superior nutritional profile and distinctive flavor characteristics. Upscale restaurants actively seek lamb's quarters, specifically requesting the young terminal shoots that appear before the plant reaches full maturity. Professional chefs value these tender portions because they provide optimal texture and flavor intensity while maintaining the nutritional density that justifies premium menu positioning. The culinary applications extend across multiple preparation methods that showcase the plant's versatility in professional kitchen environments. Raw applications preserve the distinctive mineral flavors in salad compositions, while cooking methods concentrate the nutrients and soften the texture for soup, sautés, and braises that highlight lamb's quarters as a primary ingredient rather than a garnish. The species adapts to various soil conditions and actually improves in nutritional density when grown in nitrogen-rich environments, making it ideal for areas with high organic matter content. This characteristic allows farmers to utilize composted areas, livestock paddocks, and other nutrient-dense locations that might require extensive preparation for conventional crop production. Agricultural areas with elevated nitrogen levels from previous crop rotations or organic matter decomposition create create optimal growing conditions where lamb's quarters develops peak nutritional characteristics. These environments trigger enhanced vitamin and mineral accumulation that directly correlates with the quality standards that premium buyers require for restaurant applications. Professional food service operations build seasonal menu cycles around lamb's quarters availability, incorporating the plant into signature dishes that cannot be replicated when the ingredient becomes unavailable. This dependency creates long-term buyer relationships where restaurants maintain supplier contracts to secure consistent access during peak growing seasons. Lamb's quarters represents the most reliable revenue opportunity among wild edibles, offering predictable yields, simple processing requirements, and established market demand that consistently exceeds supply. The plant's hardy nature eliminates crop failure risks that threaten conventional agricultural investments while providing multiple harvest cycles from the same growing area. The combination of zero input costs and premium pricing makes lamb's quarters identification and management essential knowledge for diversified farming operations seeking to maximize revenue potential from underutilized agricultural areas. Yet even this reliable performer faces competition from another persistent agricultural challenge that has transformed suburban lawns into battlegrounds while simultaneously creating unexpected market opportunities. Dandelion transforms this economic paradox into its most dramatic example, where suburban homeowners spend millions trying to eliminate from their lawns the same plant that sells at premium prices at farmers' markets as a gourmet bitter green. This perspective shift reveals how classification determines value in agricultural systems, where one sector's persistent problem becomes another's profitable specialty crop. Dandelion's deep taproot and perennial growth habit make it nearly impossible to eliminate through conventional lawn care methods. These same characteristics produce the complex flavors and concentrated nutrient that drive market demand among professional chefs and health-conscious consumers seeking intense, mineral-rich greens that cannot be replicated through commercial cultivation. The extensive taproot system penetrates deep into soil layers, accessing nutrients and minerals that remain unavailable to shallow-rooted crops. This deep penetration concentrates trace elements and compounds that create dandelion's distinctive bitter flavor profile, transforming what gardeners consider tenacious persistence into culinary complexity that commands premium pricing. Conventional agriculture views dandelion's persistence as a management problem requiring repeated herbicide applications and mechanical removal efforts. Specialty growers recognize it as a low-maintenance perennial crop with multiple harvest windows that provide consistent revenue streams without replanting, soil preparation, or irrigation investments. The plant's entire structure provides marketable product across different commercial sectors. Young leaves harvested in early spring serve the fresh salad market. Mature leaves target cooking green applications, roots supply herbal preparation industries, and flowers create specialty culinary ingredients for high-end restaurant applications. Early spring harvests capture dandelion leaves at peak marketability when cool temperatures and adequate moisture minimize the bitter compounds that develop under stress conditions. The optimal harvest window occurs before hot weather intensifies the bitter characteristics that reduce culinary acceptability for premium market application. European culinary traditions have maintained dandelion as a staple green across multiple generations, creating established demand among immigrant communities and upscale restaurants seeking authentic ingredients for traditional preparations. Italian, French, and Greek cuisines incorporate dandelion into classic dishes that showcase its distinctive flavor contributions. These traditional applications extend beyond novelty ingredients to fundamental components of established culinary practices. Professional chefs utilize dandelion's bitter complexity to balance rich dishes, add nutritional density to seasonal menus, and provide authentic flavors that distinguish their offerings from competitors using conventional produce. Harvest timing determines market value across distinct seasonal opportunities that maximize revenue potential from the same perennial planting. Early spring leaves command the highest prices before bitterness intensifies, while fall harvests target the root market for herbal products when concentrations of bioactive compounds reach peak levels. The plant's natural cycle provides two distinct revenue opportunities per year without replanting, soil preparation, or irrigation requirements in most climatic conditions. Spring leaf harvests focus on tender, mild-flavored greens for culinary applications, while autumn root harvests supply the herbal and supplement industries with concentrated medicinal compounds. Fall root harvesting targets different market segments, where bitter compounds become desirable characteristics rather than quality limitations. The herbal preparation industry specifically requests roots with elevated concentrations of taraxacin and other compounds that develop through the plant's natural preparation for winter dormancy. Specialty food buyers specifically request organically grown dandelion, making chemical-free management practices a market advantage rather than a production challenge. The absence of herbicide residues becomes a selling point that justifies premium pricing and creates competitive advantages for growers who embrace organic certification standards. The organic requirement transforms traditional weed management challenges into marketing opportunities where natural growing methods align with buyer specifications. Professional purchasers pay higher prices for certified organic dandelion, specifically because conventional agriculture rarely produces this crop without chemical interventions. Multiple product streams from the same perennial plantings create diversified revenue opportunities that reduce market risk while maximizing land productivity. Flowers harvested for culinary applications, leaves processed for fresh markets, and roots designated for herbal preparations provide income throughout the growing season from established plant populations. Processing requirements remain minimal across all market applications, reducing post-harvest labor costs while maintaining quality standards that justify premium pricing. Fresh leaf markets require basic washing and packaging, while root preparation involves simple cleaning and drying processes that preserve bioactive compounds. Recognizing dandelion's commercial potential transforms one of agriculture's most persistent challenges into a reliable, low-maintenance revenue source. The growing demand from professional buyers reveals how market forces are reshaping agricultural priorities across the entire food service industry. Professional kitchens across the country have fundamentally transformed their ingredient sourcing strategies, building entire menu concepts around wild edibles that were previously considered agricultural waste. This culinary revolution extends far beyond seasonal specials into comprehensive strategies where restaurants differentiate themselves through access to ingredients that conventional suppliers cannot provide. The farm-to-table movement evolved into a broader foraging trend where chefs actively seek unique flavors and textures that distinguish their offerings from conventional restaurant fare. Professional kitchens now prioritize ingredient sourcing that tells compelling stories about local ecosystems, seasonal availability, and traditional preparation methods that connect diners to regional food systems through direct sensory experiences. The expanding market potential for edible weeds creates opportunities through restaurant demand that operates parallel to conventional food distribution network. Most farmers remain unaware of the specific species, quality standards, and delivery requirements that restaurants seek for consistent wild edible integration into professional kitchen operations. Urban restaurants increasingly maintain relationships with local suppliers who can provide consistent quantities of wild edibles throughout the growing season. These procurement relationships involve understanding harvest timing, post-harvest handling requirements, and quality specifications that determine whether foraged ingredients meet the standards required for professional culinary applications. Menu development reveals the economic impact of foraged ingredient integration across multiple restaurant categories. Dishes featuring foraged ingredients command premium prices while generating increased customer interest and social media engagement that extends marketing reach beyond traditional advertising approaches. The pricing premiums reflect both ingredient costs and perceived value among consumers who associate foraged ingredients with authenticity, sustainability, and culinary innovation. Restaurants leverage these perceptions to justify higher menu prices while creating dining experiences that cannot be replicated by competitors using conventional ingredient sourcing methods. Professional chefs value wild edibles for their intense flavors, unique textures, and seasonal availability that allows for creative menu development and ingredient storytelling. The biochemical complexity of wild plants provides flavor profiles that cannot be achieved through conventional cultivation. creating signature dishes that establish restaurant identity through distinctive taste experiences. Seasonal availability patterns enable dynamic menu development, where chefs build anticipation for limited-time offerings that showcase peak season wild ingredients. This scarcity-based marketing approach generates customer loyalty and repeat visits as diners return to experience seasonal specialties that define restaurant identity through exclusive ingredient access. The restaurant supply chain for wild edibles operates through local distributors who maintain quality standards, handle food safety requirements, and coordinate delivery logistics across multiple restaurant accounts. These distribution networks function through direct relationships between producers and buyers, where quality control and relationship management determine market access. Local distributors understand the requirements for wild edible handling, including optimal storage temperatures, packaging methods, and delivery timing that preserves quality from harvest to final preparation. The distribution infrastructure requires cold chain management, quality inspection protocols, and inventory systems designed specifically for highly perishable specialty ingredients. Restaurants require consistent deliveries throughout the growing season, creating opportunities for farmers who can scale beyond farmers' market quantities while maintaining the quality standards that professional kitchens demand. These requirements exceed hobby-scale foraging operations while remaining manageable for diversified farming enterprises seeking additional revenue streams. Commercial restaurant relationships require systematic production planning, harvest scheduling, and quality control systems that ensure consistent supply during peak demand periods. The transition from farmers market sales to restaurant distribution involves developing operational capabilities that support larger volumes while maintaining premium quality standards. Understanding restaurant demand patterns, quality specifications, and supply chain requirements enables farmers to develop reliable commercial relationships that provide steady revenue streams beyond direct-to-consumer sales. Professional food service markets offer consistent demand that creates predictable income streams while establishing long-term buyer relationships that support e-business planning. The professional food service market represents significant growth opportunity for wild edible production, requiring systematic approaches to quality control, consistency maintenance, and relationship development. These market relationships create reliable revenue streams that function independently of traditional agricultural cycles and conventional crop performance. Building wild edible production into existing farming operations creates natural protection against the uncertainties that threaten conventional agricultural profitability. Traditional farming concentrates risk in a limited number of species that require significant upfront investment and depend on favorable conditions throughout extended growing seasons. Conventional farming systems function like financial portfolios concentrated in single asset classes, where adverse conditions affecting one crop category can eliminate entire seasonal revenue streams. Corn and soybean operations invest substantial resources per acre in seed, fertilizer, and pest management systems that generate returns only if weather patterns, market conditions, and input costs align favorably throughout extended growing periods. Wild edibles provide diversification benefits that complement conventional crop production through their natural resilience and different growing characteristics. The biological mechanisms that enable these plants to thrive as successful weeds and also allow them to extract value from marginal growing conditions without requiring the intensive management that conventional crops demand. The diverse harvest windows of different wild species spread revenue generation across the entire growing season rather than concentrating income during specific harvest periods. Dandelion provides early spring revenue, purslane peaks during summer months, and lamb's quarters maintains productivity through extended growing periods that span multiple conventional crop cycles. This temporal distribution creates steady cash flow patterns that reduce the boom-bust revenue cycles characteristic of conventional agriculture. Instead of concentrating all income generation during narrow harvest windows, wild edible integration provides regular revenue opportunities that improve financial predictability and reduce dependency on single crop performance. Wild edibles require minimal external inputs, eliminating many cost risks that can consume profit margins during challenging economic periods. The plants established naturally from existing seed banks adapt to native soil conditions and utilize natural precipitation patterns without requiring external water sources or intensive fertility programs. Reduced input dependency becomes particularly valuable during periods when fertilizer, seed, and fuel prices can transform profitable farming operations into loss-generating enterprises. Wild edibles generate revenue without significant exposure to commodity price volatility that affects conventional agricultural input costs. Market demand for wild edibles demonstrates stability during economic uncertainty as restaurants and consumers seek unique, locally sourced ingredients. The specialty nature of wild edible markets provides some insulation from commodity price fluctuations and economic cycles that affect conventional agricultural pricing structures. The background research confirms that foraging can act as a crucial safety net during social or ecological shocks, such as loss of livelihood or farm failure. The ability to procure food and potential income from wild resources provides a buffer against economic instability, particularly relevant during economic downturns when conventional markets may falter. Economic uncertainty often increases demand for local food systems and authentic ingredients that connect consumers to regional agricultural heritage. Wild edibles can benefit from market dynamics where economic stress drives consumer interest in traditional foods and locally sourced ingredients that provide cultural connection and perceived health benefits. The perennial nature of species like dandelion provides production continuity that survives extreme weather events through established root systems and adaptive mechanisms. These characteristics enable survival through challenging conditions while maintaining the potential for revenue generation when conventional annual crops require complete replanting. However, successful wild edible production requires proper plant identification to distinguish edible species from toxic lookalikes. The research emphasizes avoiding areas treated with chemicals and understanding which plants are safe for consumption, making accurate identification essential for both safety and market success. Wild edible integration creates agricultural systems where diverse species, harvest windows, and market channels reduce overall business risk while providing additional revenue streams that require minimal capital investment. The diversification approach parallels investment portfolio management strategies that spread risk across multiple asset classes with different performance characteristics. This diversification strategy enables farming operations to generate value from environmental variability through natural adaptation mechanisms rather than relying solely on insurance-based protection against losses. The transformation creates business models that complement conventional agriculture while providing resilience through biological diversity. Understanding these risk management benefits reveals why proper implementation becomes essential for realizing the economic potential that wild edibles offer to diversified farming operations. Successful market entry requires systematic identification, quality development, and buyer relationship building that transforms agricultural practices into profitable enterprises. The shift from herbicide application to selective harvesting demands new skills in plant identification, post-harvest handling, and customer relationship management that differ significantly from conventional farming approaches. Without proper implementation strategy, farmers risk harvesting unmarketable products, missing optimal harvest windows, or failing to meet buyer quality standards that determine profitability. The transition requires developing expertise across multiple disciplines that conventional agriculture typically outsources to specialized suppliers and distribution networks. Species identification forms the foundation of successful wild edible production, requiring the ability to distinguish edible plants from toxic lookalikes, understand optimal harvest timing, and recognize quality indicators that determine market pricing. Never consume any plant unless you are 100% certain of its identification, as misidentification can result in serious poisoning or death. Purslane identification involves recognizing the thick, paddle-shaped leaves and succulent stems that distinguish it from spurge, a toxic plant with similar growth patterns but different leaf characteristics. The distinctive fleshy texture and reddish stems provide reliable identification markers that remain consistent across different growing conditions. Dandelion identification requires understanding the deeply lobed leaf patterns and hollow stems that separate it from similar-appearing plants like wild lettuce or chicory. The distinctive characteristics become critical when harvesting at commercial scales, where misidentification can create liability issues and damage buyer relationships. relationships. Lamb's quarters identification focuses on the silvery undersides of diamond-shaped leaves and the distinctive growth pattern that produces harvestable terminal shoots throughout the growing season. The plant's triangular leaf structure and whitish coating on leaf undersides provide reliable identification markers that distinguish it from potentially harmful look-alike. Avoid harvesting from areas treated with herbicides, pesticides, or other chemicals, as these substances can concentrate in plant tissues and pose serious health risks. Roadside areas, industrial sites, and conventionally managed agricultural fields should be avoided completely due to potential contamination from vehicle emissions, industrial pollutants, and agricultural chemicals. Post-harvest handling involves rapid cooling, proper washing techniques, and packaging methods that maintain freshness and meet food safety requirements for commercial sales. Wild edibles require immediate temperature reduction after harvest to preserve the quality characteristics that justify premium pricing structures. The cooling process must begin within minutes of harvest to prevent wilting and nutrient degradation that reduces marketability. Simple cooling methods include immediate placement in coolers with ice or cold water bath that rapidly reduce field heat and extend shelf life for buyers who maintain strict quality standards. Washing procedures remove soil particles, insects, and debris while preserving delicate leaf structures that determine visual appeal and texture characteristics. The washing systems must balance thorough cleaning with gentle handling to maintain the pristine appearance that specialty buyers require for professional applications. Market development begins with understanding local demand patterns and establishing relationships with potential buyers who value specialty ingredients. Direct sales venues provide immediate feedback on pricing strategies, quality expectations, and presentation methods that determine commercial viability. Initial market testing reveals which species generate strongest consumer interest, optimal pricing points, and presentation techniques that maximize sales volume. The testing phase allows refinement of harvest timing, post-harvest handling, and packaging methods before scaling to larger production levels. Commercial buyer relationships develop through consistent quality delivery and reliable supply schedules that meet professional requirements. Commercial buyers expect consistent weekly deliveries of specific quantities at predetermined quality levels throughout agreed-upon seasonal periods. Quality standardization involves developing harvest protocols that ensure consistent size, color, and texture characteristics across multiple harvest cycles. Professional buyers maintain strict specifications that determine acceptance or rejection of entire deliveries based on predetermined quality standards. Documentation and record-keeping become essential for tracking which areas produce the highest quality plants, optimal harvest timing, and customer preferences that guide future production decisions. Successful operations maintain detailed records of harvest locations, quality assessments, and buyer feedback that inform operational improvements. The documentation system creates operational intelligence that maximizes revenue potential through systematic data collection and analysis, GPS mapping of productive areas, weather correlation with quality characteristics, and buyer preference tracking guide, expansion planning, and quality improvement initiatives. Systematic implementation transforms agricultural practices into profitable enterprises while requiring minimal capital investment. The foundation for success lies in mastering identification, maintaining safety protocols, and developing reliable market relationships that generate consistent revenue streams from what conventional agriculture considers waste. The agricultural transformation extends beyond revenue generation into fundamental changes in how farming operations approach land management and biological diversity. This paradigm shift demonstrates how perspective conversion transforms agricultural challenges into market opportunities that strengthen farm resilience across diverse growing conditions and economic cycles. Begin with proper identification of purslane, lamb's quarters, and dandelion. Accurate species identification forms the foundation of safe and profitable wild edible production, as misidentification can result in serious health risks and market failures. Start small-scale harvesting operations to understand quality requirements, optimal timing, and post-harvest handling procedures that determine market acceptance and pricing structures. Develop relationships with local buyers who provide consistent demand for your production volumes. The future of agriculture lies not in eliminating biological diversity, but in recognizing and cultivating the economic value that exists within natural systems already present on agricultural land.